When my parents signed the family house over to my sister, leaving me nothing, I just smiled. They next visited their new apartment, but the security guard blocked them. My sister called Mom, screaming, "I know what you're thinking. Sending $1 and changing the locks seems vindictive. It sounds cruel. But you have to understand, this wasn't a snap decision. It was an accounting. For the last decade, I had been the silent, uncredited investor in the business of my family. My role was simple. I was the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who got her doctorate, worked 60-hour weeks, and always, always paid her bills. Chloe was the golden child, the one with the vibrant personality and the marketing degree who somehow always had a crisis that required cash. When she needed tuition for her last 2 semesters, I paid it. When my parents, Ryan and Karen, forgot about the property taxes on their Westlake Hills home and were 3 weeks from foreclosure, I paid those too. I was the family's secret ATM, the emergency fund, the invisible pillar holding up the facade. In return, I got silence. I got forgotten birthdays. I got empty seats at my own graduation. And for years I accepted this. I told myself it was just how they were. But that's the trap, isn't it? You see, the cruelty isn't always a big dramatic event. Sometimes it's 1,000 tiny paper cuts that are normalized over time. It's the constant casual dismissal. It's the darling dynamic where one child's every whim is celebrated and the scapegoat is only valued for what they can provide. It becomes so normal that the family genuinely stops seeing it as exploitation. They truly believe they are entitled to your sacrifice. Your success isn't your own. It's just another resource for them to tap. My achievements were just line items in their budget. And why did I keep sending the money? For the longest time, I thought it was weakness. But it wasn't. It was hope. Survivors of these dynamics. And that's what we are, survivors. We operate under a different set of rules. We are bound by an invisible chain forged from a desperate childhood need to earn the love that was supposed to be free. We aren't weak. We are just stuck in a pattern of living for the crumbs. We believe that if we are just useful enough, responsible enough, quiet enough, one day they will finally turn around and see us. We aren't being victims. We're just clinging to a survival strategy that has long since expired. We're trying to pay a debt that was never ours to begin with. But standing there in my quiet apartment, I realized that strategy was bankrupt. The hope was gone. The invisible chain didn't just break. I'd taken a blowtorch to it. I had paid for their comfort, their celebrations, and their financial mistakes, and in return they skipped the single most important day of my adult life, only to send an invoice for their next party. The $1 wasn't an insult. It was a correction. It was the first time I had ever paid them exactly what their respect was worth. For 2 days, my apartment was quiet. I blocked Karen's number. I blocked Ryan's. I started organizing my resume, feeling a strange, cold, calm settle over me. The silence didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. Of course I should have known. When you take away a narcissist's supply, they don't get sad. They get loud. And on the 3rd day, that peace was shattered by a knock on my door. It wasn't a gentle knock. It was the hard, official rap of the Austin police. I stood there for a long moment, just listening to the silence. It was almost noon. The knock came again harder this time. Not a polite tap-tap, but a flat-palmed thump, thump, thump that rattled the new deadbolt. It wasn't my landlord. It wasn't a neighbor. It was the sound of authority. I looked through the peephole, and my blood went cold. 2 Austin police officers stood outside my door, their faces neutral, hands resting near their belts. I took a breath, unlocked the deadbolt, and opened the door. "Can I help you, officers?" The older of the two, a man with tired eyes, spoke first. "Ma'am, are you Megan?" He checked his notes. "Megan, from the pharmacy doctorate program." "I am. I just graduated." "Is something wrong?" "We received a wellness check request, ma'am, from a woman named Karen." "Your mother?" "Of course." I leaned against the doorframe, a cold smile touching my lips. I hadn't expected this. Not this fast. This was the escalation. "A wellness check," I repeated. "And what exactly was her wellness concern?" The officer looked uncomfortable. "The caller stated you were acting erratically, that you'd recently cut off all contact, changed your locks, and that she was afraid you were mentally unstable and a danger to yourself." Unstable. A danger to myself. The words were clinical, chosen specifically to create a narrative. She wasn't just angry. She was trying to build a case, to paint me as the crazy one, the unreliable one. The public humiliation of it burned in my throat, two police officers standing in my hallway for all my neighbors to see. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded, a slow, tired motion. "Officers," I said, my voice perfectly calm, "may I show you something? It might provide context." They exchanged a look, then nodded. I stepped back, letting them stand just inside the entryway. I walked to the kitchen counter, picked up my phone, and unlocked it. I didn't show them the years of bank statements. I didn't show them the receipts for Chloe's tuition. I just showed them the text thread from 3 days ago. "This is the text I received from my mother," I said, holding out the phone. The officer read it. I watched his eyes scan the words. "Need $4,000 for Chloe's graduation party." "And this," I said, scrolling down, "is my response." He saw the $1 transfer. He saw the congrats memo. A small sigh escaped him, the kind of sigh a man makes when he realizes he's wasting his time. "And the erratic behavior," she mentioned. "The locks," I pointed to, "the shiny new deadbolt on the door. I changed my locks. Yes." After she demanded $4,000 3 days after skipping my doctoral graduation. "I'm not unstable, officer. I'm just done paying." The officer handed the phone back to me. His professional mask was back, but the tiredness in his eyes had turned to annoyance, not at me, but at the woman who had wasted his time. "Ma'am, I apologize for the intrusion. This is clearly a family dispute that escalated." "She filed a false report, officer. She used you as a weapon because I cut her off financially." He just nodded. "You have a good day, ma'am, and congratulations on your doctorate." I closed the door, engaged the new lock, and leaned my forehead against the cool wood. The adrenaline faded, replaced by that same cold, hard clarity. She hadn't just crossed a line. She was trying to prove I wasn't sane enough to have any lines. She was trying to discredit me. I walked back to my laptop, my mind racing. If she was willing to call the police on me, what else was she willing to do? What else had she done? The wellness check wasn't just an escalation. It was a warning. And it was a mistake. Her mistake, because it made me realize this wasn't just about my boundaries anymore. This was about my name. And for the first time, I decided to look into just how far she'd gone in using it. I opened my browser and typed in annual credit report. The lock clicked. I slid the deadbolt home and leaned my forehead against the door, my entire body shaking not from fear, but from a cold, vibrating rage. She had used the police. She had weaponized a system designed to protect people against me, her daughter, to punish me for saying no. The humiliation of it was sharp metallic in my mouth. My neighbors had seen. The officers had seen. I had spent my entire life being the quiet, responsible one, hoping that my competence would finally earn me a fraction of the love Chloe got just for existing. And in one afternoon, my mother had tried to relabel that competence as mental instability. This wasn't a family dispute anymore. This was war. I picked up my phone, my hands steady now, and dialed my friend Julia. We'd gone to undergrad together before she went to law school. She knew my family dynamics. "Julia," I said, my voice flat. She called the cops on me. What I explained, the wellness check, the unstable accusation, the locked door. Julia was silent for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice was all business. "Okay, Megan, this is a classic narcissistic escalation. She lost control of you, changing the locks, so she's trying to take back the narrative by painting you as the one who's unwell. She's trying to discredit you before you can discredit her. What do I do?" "If she's this desperate," Julia said, "and this willing to lie to the police, you need to check your finances. Right now. Not just your bank account. I mean your credit." A cold dread trickled down my spine. I think someone who calls 911 on their daughter over a $4,000 argument is capable of anything. Check your credit, Megan. Now. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table, the laptop glowing in the dimming light. My hands felt cold as I navigated to the credit report website, my fingers fumbling as I typed in my social security number, answering security questions I'd set years ago. "What was the name of your first pet?" The page loaded. I scrolled past the familiar accounts. My student loans, a mountain of them. My single Visa card, which I paid off every month. My car lease, all normal. And then I saw it. A new account listed under installment loans. First, Austin Lenders. Date opened 3 weeks ago. Status good, standing. Original amount $15,000. I stopped breathing. $15,000. The text message demanding $4,000 flashed in my mind. That wasn't a request. That was a distraction. They hadn't been asking me for money to pay for the party. They had already stolen more than 3 times that amount and were just trying to get me to pay for that too. I clicked on the loan details. The electronic signature page loaded. My name, Megan Reed, typed in a standard font. The address, not my Austin apartment. It was my parents' address in Westlake Hills. I called Julia back. My voice didn't even shake. It was frighteningly calm. "Julia, they took out a loan, a personal loan. $15,000 in my name." "Okay," she said, her voice sharp. "Okay, Megan. This just went from a family dispute to a felony. This is identity theft. Fraud. What do I do?" "You are going to file a police report for identity theft. And you are going to call that lender and report it as fraudulent. But first, we need to know everything. Get the full loan disbursement documents. We need to trace exactly where that money went." It took 2 hours. 2 hours on the phone with the fraud department using the police report from the wellness check as proof that there was an ongoing family issue. They emailed me the file. The disbursement was split. $10,000 was wired directly to Austin Elite Events, the planner for Chloe's party. The other $5,000, it wasn't sent to the event planner. It was transferred to a personal checking account. I stared at the account name, my heart turning to ice. R. Henderson, Ryan. My father? This was the twist, the final, brutal piece of the puzzle. My father wasn't the weak, passive man I'd always believed him to be, just going along with my mother's plans. He was an active participant. He was a co-conspirator. That $5,000 wasn't for Chloe. It was for him. I remembered the hushed phone calls, the stress from work, the way he'd seemed so relieved when I started paying their taxes. It was gambling. It had to be. My mother hadn't just stolen from me to throw her golden child a party. She had stolen from me to cover her husband's secret debts. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had formed a criminal conspiracy against me, using my name, my credit, and my future as collateral for their lies. I closed the laptop. The anger was gone. The hurt was gone. All I felt was the absolute sterile calm of a surgeon before the first cut. This wasn't a family. It was a crime scene. And I was done being the victim. I chose a coffee shop on South Congress, public, loud, and neutral. I got there first, picked a table in the center, and waited. They arrived together, a united front of indignation. Karen, Ryan, and Chloe. They slid into the booth not as a family, but as a prosecution team. Really, Megan? Karen started, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. A police report calling lawyers. After everything we've done for you, you're going to threaten your own family. Chloe just stared at her phone, radiating annoyance. You totally embarrassed me. Do you know what people are saying? Ryan stayed silent, just watching me with those familiar weak eyes. I didn't answer their questions. I just slid a thin folder across the table. $15,000, I said, my voice quiet, cutting through the cafe's noise. Karen froze her hand halfway to her coffee cup. I don't know what you're talking about. A personal loan in my name, I continued just as calmly. Opened 3 weeks ago. $10,000 went to Austin Elite Events, and $5,000 went directly into Ryan's personal checking account. The color drained from my father's face. Chloe finally looked up from her phone, her eyes wide, darting between our parents. Karen's mask of indignation didn't just crack, it shattered. Megan, honey, you don't understand, she stammered, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. Your father, he needed. It was a mistake. We were going to pay it back. You can't tell anyone. You mean the gambling debts? I asked. Ryan flinched as if I'd slapped him. Please, Karen begged, reaching for my hand. I pulled it back. We can fix this. We'll transfer it back. We just need time. Don't ruin us over this. Think of your sister. I looked at them. The three of them finally unified not by love, but by shared panic. They weren't sorry for the crime. They were just terrified of the consequences. It's too late, I said, standing up. I already reported the identity theft and the fraud to the lender. They're handling it now. Karen just stared at me, her mouth open, the words not forming. Enjoy the party, Chloe, I said. I placed a $10 bill on the table for my coffee and walked out, leaving them frozen in the middle of the crowded cafe. I didn't go to the party, of course. I didn't need to. I had already seen the ending. But I imagined it. The ballroom at the hotel, glowing in shades of pink and silver. Chloe in a dress that probably cost 3 months of my rent, laughing as she danced the center of everyone's world. Karen and Ryan playing the proud, successful parents, masters of their Westlake Hills universe, their reputation, everything. I imagined the music at its peak. I imagined Chloe about to cut the cake. And then the interruption. Not loud, not dramatic, just calm. 2 hotel security managers, followed by 2 uniformed Austin police officers and a man in a perfectly tailored suit. I didn't recognize the representative from First Austin Lenders. I pictured the music fading, the DJ looking confused, the guests turning their smiles freezing. I imagined the man in the suit stepping forward, his voice, professional and clear, carrying across the silent room. Mrs. Karen Reed, Mr. Ryan Reed. We're here to discuss a fraudulent loan of $15,000. A loan taken in the name of Megan Reed, which we have confirmed was used to fund this event. The collective gasp. The whispers. Chloe standing by the cake, her face crumbling from triumph to absolute public humiliation. I imagined Karen trying to sputter out a denial, but the man in the suit just calmly presenting the paperwork, the forged signature, the wire transfers, the proof. No one was arrested. It wasn't about that. It was about accounting. It was about consequences. The party didn't just end, it evaporated. Guests fleeing the scene of the humiliation, texting everyone they knew. The vendors realizing the event was paid for, with stolen money starting to panic about their own payments. And, in the middle of it all, Karen and Ryan finally exposed. Not as pillars of the community, but as frauds, as thieves. I sat in my quiet apartment, looking out at the city lights. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt balanced. The scales finally were level. The fallout was quiet, not explosive. It was the sound of a structure collapsing in on itself. Karen and Ryan, faced with criminal charges for fraud, did the only thing they could. They settled. They signed a strict repayment plan with the lender. To cover the immediate demand for the $15,000 and the impending foreclosure from their other secret debts, they were forced to sell the house in Westlake Hills. That house had been their entire identity. It was their proof of success, their status symbol, the castle from which they looked down on the world. I heard from my lawyer, Julia, that it sold quickly in a cash offer for far less than they'd hoped. All the equity they'd built, the equity I had helped preserve, was vaporized, consumed by debts and legal fees. They moved into a small rental apartment complex off the highway. Their reputation in the community was decimated. The story of the party, the police, the fraudulent loan. It had become a cautionary tale, whispered at cocktail parties, the kind of scandal their social circle feared more than anything. Chloe, I heard, was the true casualty. Her perfect graduation party became a public humiliation. Ashamed and furious at being made collateral damage in her parents' schemes, she cut ties with them and moved in with a friend from school. She never texted me again. I didn't text her either. There was nothing left to say. And me, I got a new job at a downtown data firm. The pay was better, the work was challenging, and my new boss saw my competence as an asset, not a resource to be drained. I moved into a new apartment, one with a small balcony that overlooked the city, a place they had never seen, a place they would never have a key to. One night, a few months after it was all over, I opened my laptop. I found the folder I had labeled Family Evidence. Inside was the audio file of Karen's confession, the PDF of the fraudulent loan, the screenshots of the text messages. I stared at the files for a long time. They were my proof, my justification, my armor. And I realized I didn't need them anymore. I dragged the folder to the trash icon. I clicked empty. And as I watched the files permanently delete, I felt the last heavy knot in my chest finally unravel. I was free. If you're listening to this and my story feels a little too familiar, this part is for you. This is for you if you've ever felt like you were on the fringes of your own family. For the one who always remembers birthdays but never gets a call on theirs. For the one who is responsible enough to be the emergency contact, but not important enough to be the guest of honor. You are the fixer, the ATM, the free therapist, the reliable one. You are the pillar holding up a house that doesn't even have a room for you. And you live with this quiet, constant ache. This feeling that if you just try a little harder, get one more degree, send one more check, be a little more perfect, this time they will finally see you. This time they will finally love you the way you deserve. I need you to hear me. That day is never coming. Not because you aren't worthy of it, but because they are incapable of giving it. You cannot get warmth from a stone. You cannot get water from a dry well. And you cannot get love from people who only value you for your utility. Your worth is not negotiable. It is not something you have to earn by setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. So please change your locks. Set your boundaries. Stop being the silent investor in a family that has already declared emotional bankruptcy. The silence that follows might be terrifying at first. It will feel like you've lost everything. But then, one morning you'll wake up and you'll realize it's not silence. It's just peace.